All right. What's up, YouTube?
I like that harmony at the beginning there.
I know.
Hey, we're getting better at that.
No, I'm getting worse.
We should start a band.
I'm getting worse. I'm terrible at this. All right, so it's been a busy week. Holiday weekend, all kinds of different stuff. Missed a day, running full bore.
Yeah, and, I mean, we barely pulled this one together. We were in your house till 6 o'clock, and luckily we got saved because your son Flynn came up to the top of the stairs. Dad, it's 6 o'clock. Dad, it's 6 o'clock. Otherwise, we could have been there until midnight.
Could have. I was up at 6 a.m. doing it too. So, so this is what we're going to cover today. We're going to cover adaptive reefs and all those boards and stuff. You probably saw in the thumbnail, including some broken stuff, and we'll explain like what we're doing there, why we're doing it, how it's coming. Is far from finished, but you'll see a lot of progress.
A bunch of challenges that we ran into on the fly as we were putting it in, but
if you're going to do this, you probably want to see the challenges because they'll probably come up for you too. And then also, I told you last week we're going to talk calcium, so I'm going to start that conversation about calcium and alkalinity and how we're going to manage that in this tank. Actually, there were some revelations for me in the last few weeks as I was doing some of those master chemistry videos, and like really made me think a lot about how I'm going to apply it. So that's one of the beauties of writing all the scripts and spending all this time every Saturday and Sunday morning writing. Like, oh man, this is actually coming together for me in a different way that I didn't think. So we're going to see all that come up, and I don't know. That's today.
That is today. Well, so all of it got started because yesterday or the day before, your pallet showed up right here in the studio. And it's Adaptive Reef, and it's just full of all of your stuff. You guys have seen, I think you showed on your Facebook page. You showed like some little sneak peeks and behind the scenes of what this thing looks like. But now that I see it on the wall, I mean, this thing, how long is that wall? 6?
No, I don't know. It's probably 10, 11, 12 feet.
And it takes up the whole wall. It's really cool.
Yeah, so it spans the whole thing. The big thing here for me is I wanted to highlight, I wanted to look kind of like a tricked out car.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking of that too. It's like, so the car looks awesome on the outside, and sometimes those cars look awesome on the outside, but you open the hood, it's just an engine and whatnot in there. But sometimes you open up those show cars, everything's chromed out, all of the tubes and wires are nice and clean, and aftermarket parts, it looks real awesome.
And one more step past that even.
What?
I like when you have one of those tricked out cars and you go and right on the door, there's nitro and little stickers for some of the brands that they love the most and are really proud of. I mean, you might roll up to this car and not be able to see inside what's in there, but you're still really proud of the work that you've done. I like to incorporate some of the brands and stuff into it and just kind of make it fun. So I just try to do something different than I've done or seen before. So I don't know. That's where we're gonna go. And if you've already seen the sump that was from Royal Exclusive and Kyle,
the combo.
Actually, I'm just going to be straight. When Kyle showed me that stand for the sump and we saw it all in, I'm the game has changed. I got to up the rest of the game. I can't just put this down here and then not have everything else fit.
Yeah, because he's got the Royal Exclusive cutout. It's backlit behind it, so you can flip it on and the whole thing lights up. Plus, the Royal Exclusive sump itself is gorgeous in its own right, and it's got LEDs and all kinds of stuff. So form matching function here.
All right, let's see the first pin. So we unwrapped a whole bunch of it here, and there's a Mr. Chili. He may not make the cut, sadly, but we'll see.
Yeah, you can see a part of him is cut out, and then the spoon is cut out, and that's on purpose. But we're gonna have to make some changes here because there's an outlet that goes right behind them on your wall.
Yep. So you can see a bunch of the stuff. There's actually a pile of it behind it even. And then we start to lay it out, and it looks something like this. It's going to kind of look like this in the wall. There's tons of missing pieces on there, though. You don't know necessarily what's coming. Just big black boards at the moment.
That's true.
But you're going to start to see. And one of the coolest things is that piece of paper that he gave us. So that's not just a piece of paper. It's actually, you can't see it sadly in this, but it's got all of them drawn out on it.
To scale, which helps us because all we have to do, we tape this thing to the wall, and then we get a super rough idea of where it goes, and we just start putting pieces on and putting pieces on.
You don't have to, so if you ever get something from Kyle, ask for this paper because you've already, CAD designed it to your wall anyway.
Yep.
So now it's all space perfect. You don't have to get your every last ruler out. You can just do it right the way that it's on the piece of paper. And so what we did after we mounted one, as you can see the next photo here, is I just cut out the paper. We loosened a couple of screws and pulled it out so that you can just go on to the next one.
Yeah, paper
leave it stuck up.
Yeah, paper stays on the wall, and the key here to hanging that first one was kind of getting in the rough, the rough idea of where this thing was going to go, and the paper really helped there too. But like getting at least one screw in, leveling it, and then running the rest, off of that. So we were still kind of on the paper, and the biggest thing is like we had to make on-the-fly adjustments. Some of them didn't go exactly where the paper was because of this right here. You have a stud. This bracket is, you see it's the only one with like that angle iron, and that's because it's designed to hold weight.
Yeah, it's going to hold roughly 40 pounds of liquid, probably.
Yeah, and now we got to make sure it lines up with the stud. So that starts to adjust where you start putting these things. But with the first one in place, we can use and level. We can go down the line, leveling and making sure everything's on the same line.
That's the big thing. So best laid plans, right?
Yeah.
So here's the thing: is it's laid out perfect, except I need to hit a stud. And so, like in the holes drilled here, in some cases we just drilled some new holes in the plastic, but in this case it was through metal, so we just left a hole. And we only had to shift it like a half inch. That half inch mattered a little bit later, as you'll see, but still like roughly laid out. One of the cool things here that I'm going to tell you right off the bat is, like when we laid down that PVC, is it closed cell PVC? Is that right?
Oh, expanded.
Expanded PVC, yeah. Expanded PVC wall. What Kyle had said is this is going to give you the surface to mount everything to. And I'm like, well, yeah, but you got a wall there too, right? But in this case, I found out, I understand now. When you lay down all of that expanded PVC on the wall, make a false wall, or even an actual wall in this case, it does. It allows you to screw right into it. If it's drywall, the stuff just crumbles. You're using anchors, which are way more difficult to get in. Yeah. And there's a couple of different things I got out of this. One is if you use a bunch of screws, actually you don't need anchors because it screws into this plastic really well.
Just distributing like all of the weight across multiple points, so it's just as strong.
And then there was a couple other things where we actually did use like those screw-in anchors or like little spirals that go in.
Oh yeah, we call them wall dogs.
I think we were calling them wall dogs, but they're little spirals, and then you screw a screw into it. My experience with that in drywall is total crap. Like all I've ever do is destroy my wall. Right?
Yeah, I've done the same.
With the plastic here, they screw in perfectly, and they get a really, really good hold in there. So I don't know. I really believe in putting down that closed cell PVC or expanded PVC on the wall. Really worked out well, especially if you're going to attach a bunch of stuff to it.
Well, I imagine like if we had taken the time to measure that whole wall and put in some of the measurements and actually measure out the distance where the studs are, Kyle would have had this perfect where we wouldn't have had to make any adjustments.
Probably, yeah, absolutely. That would be a harder thing to convey perfectly to Canada, back to Minnesota, but yes. All right, so this is kind of what it looked like once we got a bunch of it on the wall. So you can see, I'm going to give you like a little sneak peek of the stuff on the right is going to be a little dosing station for KZ. You'll see how it kind of shapes together in a minute. Then the next one is going to be a 2-part dosing station. One of the canisters sadly didn't make it back from Canada. Yeah. Shipped it up there for the design, came back and crumbled. I got a new one already on my desk, so we'll replace that thing. And by the way, all this stuff is backlit. All of it's got LED lights. I think there's like 12 different sets of LED lights. The whole wall is going to glow like crazy when we're done. The dosing container is actually lit from the bottom. Yeah. So the next one's going to be the Ecotech thing, and then the next one is Neptune, and the next one is going to be, it holds our computer, but it's also going to be an RODI system, and so you'll see how that all comes together in just a second as well. All right. Super sweet. So one of the cool things here is actually the LEDs.
Well, see, I'd like to, before we get there, I like this, if you go back to that last one, look at, so you see the difference between the one on the right and the other ones. What he built was this box that you mount to the wall, and then there's like a front plate, like the one on the right has the front plate on it that screws into that box. Now I have space in there that's off the wall to hide all my cords and those big heavy, drivers and whatnot. And this material on the front face of this is almost like the wall back that we have here. I mean, I think this might be the same kind of PVC board or PVC type stuff.
Yep.
And now I can drill anything I want into the front of these as well.
And he's smart because he's made it double thick in the places where he knows you're going to screw it into it. So he's got a whole inch of this expanded PVC. So so all of these things have a front and a back. And actually, when I was talking to him today, he said he's going to start selling hinge kits. So you can actually open them up really easy, just pop it up, look in your stuff, and whip it up however you want.
That's solid.
All right, so in the LEDs that he put in here is actually that next shot here. If you look really closely here, you'll see that it has like a one-link port on the back.
Yeah, the accessory port. So the one-links have the 4 prongs and the accessories have the 2 prongs. So there's a couple of these built into your EB832 in each one. And then there you can actually get like another module, like a one-link module if you needed more. But that means the whole back part of that thing, it's got, if you can imagine on the back side of that wall, it's spaced off of the wall just a little bit. So there's a ring of LEDs that go around it. And you can tell those in your Apex, you can program them and say, hey, if this thing ever happens, turn these LEDs on.
So I'm looking to give like some contrast. Right now it's just black and white. I want to get some color in there, and I want to get some visual interest and contrast in there. So hopefully use the LEDs. But the point was, they also sell, he did ship the little bricks with it, so we could plug it in in the outlet or into the wall. But the EBH he's talking about are the outlets for the Apex. So we could actually not even bother using an outlet. And a lot of times those one-link ports don't even get used unless you bought some accessories.
That's true.
So we can plug them right in here. And actually I was talking to Terrence today, and he said that on some of these LEDs, like we could actually daisy chain a bunch of them together or wire them together and then just use one of those ports for a lot of, because they're pretty low power usage.
Was it good? Now you imagine like what could you use this for too? And you were saying like if something catastrophic happens in the tank, you could walk into the room and have these things flat. Your whole entire wall would be flashing.
Yeah.
Like,
that's actually one of the major reasons I had him do it. I want to be able to walk in there and like, not emergency, because we got other solutions for emergencies.
Yeah.
But like, hey man, pH is a little lower than it should be, and like I don't necessarily want to get my phone updates constantly about it or whatnot. It isn't on that threshold. But if I go in there, it's like, hey, clean this thing. Clean your skimmer or whatever. I sent out an alarm, but I didn't sell you 50 of them. I don't know. So some visual elements telling you to do something. That'd be kind of cool to see a pulse. All right. So one of the things though is I got a room that has all the equipment in it, and on the other side I got a tank that has all of the pumps and everything in it. So I need to get them on the same side or opposite sides of the wall, because I want to be able to control them from that room. I don't want to crawl under the tank and have all of the Vortec pumps. And I could have done it really easy that way, but I want to do it the hard way. So they're like displayed and everything's nice. So the first thing is I need to drill some holes in the wall. So
look at that beast.
That's the contraption that Jeremy from Brightwell and I made. So we're trying to get through both the plastic and then through a hole on the other side. So it's like an extender that goes on to a chuck and that goes on to a hole saw, and then we'll go all the way through. And it was actually hard to piece together enough things that just from a standard Home Depot to get through the wall on both sides. But it works pretty good. So you can see here, I drilled the hole, and you can see straight through and to the other side, and there it is. So this is important. Look at that hole right there. I was real careful about where it went. And
that shadow's deceiving, almost like you're going to have a hood with a back on it that ends up covering this eventually.
Yep.
And the ticket is that hole can't be outside of the hood.
So there's a whole bunch of things. I'm going to go drill this hole through the wall. I can't hit a stud.
Yeah.
I can't hit anything like power in the wall or plumbing that's in the wall, like my home's plumbing, which is another issue we ran into earlier. And I also can't hit plumbing on the other side of the wall, or actually the first place I wanted to put it would have gone right into the overflow. Gone through, broke the overflow. It would be terrible.
Nope.
So I spent a good chunk of this morning, looking through and making sure that I was going through the right place. It was going to be in an open area, and I was going to be able to fish all those cords through. So it worked out pretty good.
So now you can take grommets on either end to kind of dress up that each side of the wall?
So I really wish they had the grommets because I would have drilled it for the right size hole. So I don't know. I think I might just like mill something out, use a router or something, and make something out for myself to cover up the hole.
Yep.
But it would be nice. Home Depot sells little grommets that you would put in the top of like a desk or something, in a little hole, and has a cap. So drill a hole for that. That'd be great.
Neat Aquatics has some too.
Oh,
like
really?
The orange ones and the gray ones and stuff. They're on our site,
But I didn't have them around this morning, and we needed to move forward. So that's what we did. All right. So one of the other things here is, if you go on to the next photo here, this is the Vortec controller box. And you may or may not have known this, but I can't obviously get that controller box through the wall through a 1-inch hole or 1.5 inch, whatever I drilled.
Yeah.
You can't get that through.
It's massive.
But you can take it apart, and there's a little clip in there. And if you see like on the top of the screen there's a little white clip, and you can unclip it.
It's just 3 screws to take the back off of this thing,
Yeah.
and then just a little plug. So
it took 3 seconds to take it apart.
This helps a lot of people out, especially who have tried that drivers attached to the dry side, and both are big and bulky, and there's no way you can fish that thing through. This is the only way that you can fish it through.
Okay, so we've actually done this on, but before I can move on, actually you can see on that photo, the last one there, I wrote on some numbers too. On the back of your thing has a serial number.
Oh yeah.
Write down the serial number so you know that the Vortec goes to the right box.
There you go.
So you're going to plug it back in the right one because you're going to forget in a second. All right. So the first time that I think I did this, I've done this so many times. We've taken them apart to do this. But on the 160 here, right behind us, there's only like a little crack. You know, and the vortex are out here.
Yeah, that's true.
And there's only a little crack in the window that goes through it. You can't fit that box through. I don't want to drill a hole this big, so we're able to fish it through that little crack in the back there and around in the back. But also in your stand underneath your normal tank, a lot of people only have like a little hole to get cords through.
I know many times I've tried to go like through around the back side of my tank, and even then I can't fit the driver between the wall and my tank. So having to do something like this, but. What's good is like no matter if it's the MP10, MP40, or MP60, I think that cord between the driver and the dry side, super long, longer. I think almost 10 feet or something like that.
Yeah, I was able to take it all the way through and back, and like all around.
That's what we were concerned about. Will you get this pump way far over here, across the tank, through the wall, up and through the back? Plenty of room.
Yes, we did. I was praying, right? Because what else would we do?
Yeah,
big trouble. All right, but yeah, so that actually worked, and so it roughly looks kind of like this. And then, oh look, I can't get the little noise canceller through the bottom. However, everything with these boards comes apart. There's only 2 screws on there. And what's cool, actually, after I took it off, I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to have to screw it back on. No, there's Velcro behind that top board.
Oh, yeah.
So after I took it apart, I could just Velcro it back on. And then when I'm ready and everything's done, put the final 2 screws in.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
So it's going to allow me to Velcro and take it back. And, like, I was so refreshed when I took it off. I'm like, oh, this is going to make the next day or 2 of my life like so much easier as I try to get this together. All right.
So is this driver bracket mounted already?
So the driver bracket on that one may be mounted. I can't tell. I don't think it is. I think it's just sitting there. So what we are going to do is we're going to mount the brackets.
Yep, there you go.
So I want it to look slick. I want it to be held in place. So they sell these like fairly inexpensive brackets where you can just like mount the...
Worth every penny.
Yeah, I mean, I could have used the Velcro that it came with, but they would look wonky all the time, and they'd be all cockeyed and whatever. I actually want it to look like this. Yeah. So now that they're all resting inside of the bracket, the little metal bracket, it looks super slick. It will always be in the right place. When I take them off, I can put it back in the right place, and it'll look really nice. I haven't routed all the cords yet because Randy's going to have to come over and help me. There's so many things to do. Actually, one of the things here that we ran into, actually I'll show it to you in the next photo, but we ran into the cords aren't long, power cords aren't long enough.
Yeah, usually they're only like 6 feet. And that's with like a 3-foot, wall to driver cord. So really only get like 9 feet.
Yeah, so the power cord isn't long enough for me to go all the way down into the sump, then find its way to the apex. Yeah. So luckily they're just like computer power cords. So I'm going to go to the Micro Center over here and get like a 10-foot one or 4 10-foot ones. I almost did this, and then like I think there's so many ways you can cut corners. I almost put you can actually see it in this next photo. I almost put a power bar in there, right? So they could plug all of the power bricks into that thing. So we're gonna come back to that photo again, but I wanna tell you why I didn't do that. So I wanted to do it so I didn't have to go to the store to go get 4 new powers.
Right.
Or 4 cords, right?
Okay. Lazy way out.
Yeah, the lazy way out. And I'm trying to justify in my head, like, I won't use 4 outlets on the EB8s then, or whatever.
True. You don't have to.
But it's violating everything we've ever talked about, which is use the power monitoring. I want to know when one of them breaks. You know, when it's no longer working, I want to know. And so, and you might be able to tell when, you know, it's only operating 3 if I plug 1 power bar in the whole thing.
Yeah.
But in the end, man, if I do that, I'm just going to be disappointed. So now's the time to care. Go get the cords. And actually, I got to go back there and get a whole bunch of stuff. The computer doesn't have a Wi-Fi chip in it, so I have a little dongle for that, all kinds of stuff. So, I mean, there's going to be 8 million trips to the store, to be honest. But, all right, so they also sell little brackets for your bricks. And just for your reference, these are not only for Ecotech.
Oh, this, yeah.
You
I
can
mean,
use these
a
bricks.
lot of power drivers are the same, and I think this only cradles like what on the front and back end, like bookends. So it doesn't matter how wide your driver is or how short or long your driver is. You can use these for almost all of your power drivers and stuff like that. And there it is. I mean, you got 2. You got on the back side. If we go back to the other one. You got 2 pieces, and I mean, there's a trick to this, and you can see the Velcro there.
Yeah, so that trick there.
Sticky, yeah.
If you don't want to, when I pulled them out of the box, I had forgotten the trick, actually, until I saw the stickies again.
Oh, yeah.
And so here's the problem, is you got these 2 little pieces that go in the end. I'm trying to space them all, like, you know, evenly with each other, but I'm also trying to get them the perfect length, the exact length of
sandwiches.
So sandwiches in there, like almost it clicks in, right? And then the Velcro just kind of holds it in. They've thought about this. So what do?
Yeah, the stickers that you saw on the back of those, they're, like you said to me earlier, and we've learned the hard way, they are not there for weight support.
Yeah, can you show the stickers here real quick?
So you can see these 3M, 2 little sticky 3M pieces. So you get this in a kit, you get a left side and you get a right side. And the sticky pieces are not there to hold the driver, and they won't support the driver. But what you do is attach them to your driver, you know, Velcro them all down, peel the stickers off, place it where you want it to go, undo the Velcro, remove your driver, and now they stay in place so you can add screws.
Yeah, net result is they all look even. So there's a net result here, is they all space pretty even.
Yeah,
I actually clipped off a little bit of the Velcro so that they don't go all the way around or on the edges and stuff, and I can just access it from the front. But they give you enough so you could use a bigger one, so that's an awesome option. All right.
Super clean, and it's inside that gap of the board from the front plate to the back thing, and you'll never see them again.
Yeah, and so you'll notice all those ports back there. I'm going to probably open up a couple of those ports so the heat can dissipate. Maybe the ones in the bottom, ones in the top, so heat can flow through there. I don't get too much heat trapped in there.
Each one of those little rectangle pieces have a little cover that you can choose to pop it in or pop it out.
And there's even on the very bottom of it where you wouldn't even see it, and the top. All right, so next is the computer. So this tank has a full Windows computer, actually. I don't know where we're going to go entirely with this.
This is cool because it's behind your RODI board, which you really don't need to put any wires or anything behind there.
I don't need anything probably back there.
Yeah.
So we'll see exactly what comes out of it, but I'm sure everybody's flag's going up. You're going to mix your water and your computer system. You'll see how it all comes together. So it's a typical computer. So you can see in the back here, it has all your normal ports. You have your USB ports. I can plug in a par meter or anything I want to plug in there. Anything that runs on Windows.
Senai can run in there too.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take a Senai home today because I want to make sure. I got fish coming next week, so a little sneak peek of that.
Hey.
There's some cherry anthias coming, right?
Oh, sweet.
So I want to make sure that the tank is cycled. So what I'm going to do is use the Senai I'm going to plug it in. I'm also going to dump in some of the ammonia from Brightwell. Make sure it actually is at 0. The thing's been cycling for quite a while.
Yep.
But I'm going to make sure using the most accurate tool I have around, and we have Senai's here, so why not?
Heck yeah.
All right. So, but this is what it looks like now. Is the reason I have it is for the Neptune. Now the Neptune isn't lit up yet on the top, but it will.
So
It'll be really cool.
yeah, the Ecotech and the Neptune one, but that is not. I was super surprised when, like, I saw this. You're like, oh yeah, it's my Neptune, it's my monitor. But then you told me this thing is touchscreen.
Yeah, it's a touch screen, so you can actually use it. So this is what it looks like. So this will be when I walk in. I can see my pH, I can see my ORP. I can, if I want to, I can actually, control up the resolution of this and get 2 channels instead of 3 and make them much bigger as well.
Man. That thing is
but
awesome.
it works exactly as you think. You walk up there and you can just toggle the things. I want this off. I want the skimmer on. I want it off. I want it on. I want it auto. I want to do anything. I can just walk up and just touch it. I want to turn off the alarms. It's super easy.
That's so
I got all those switches you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, which also like walk up, hit a button, water change, hit a button, turn off skimmer, hit a button, feed something, hit a button, do whatever I want.
I really like, so those little button things are like your breakout box, you can attach them to, but I really like the toggle switches behind the red thing, so it's like the missile firing type switch. You flip the red thing up and then flip the toggle switch.
All right, so the next thing is I wanted to use some dosing pumps. So I want to automatically dose like the 2-part and stuff like that. We're going to get to that in a second, but I also wanted to automatically dose some of the KZ stuff. To just make sure it's going in even when I'm on vacation.
Water changes too, maybe.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to use these ones for water changes, but I might. I think I actually have plans for all 8 of these dosing heads already, so I'll probably use some different.
Yep.
But in this case, I chose the Versa ones for really only one reason. I haven't actually used them before, but Josh, who takes care of a lot of the tanks here, told me he put it on there and replaced a different continuous duty pump, and he's like, "Oh, this is so much better." And I really liked it. So I figured I got to try it out. But the main reason I did it is because it's so compact. I can get 4 heads in such a small, little, easy area. There's only 2 screws to hold the whole thing up. 1 power cord.
Super nice.
And it's just mainly about space in this case. So what's cool though is you'll see the bracket here that you can mount. There's a couple things I didn't know. Man, one is there's little ports in the back that are like headphone jacks that power it. So you just clip it in, and there's a little button on there. You can clip it right out.
Yeah, that's sweet.
There's a little button on the bottom, so you can take the heads in and out. Super, super easy. And the mounting bracket even comes with like a leveling bar in it.
That leveling thing is a feature that I love about, like, if you get a Nest thermometer, if you get some of these, really nice Google Home type things, anything you're mounting to your wall, a lot of them these days come with a really nice tool, and they have that leveling thing in there, so you don't have to go to your garage, you don't have to do anything. Plop it on there, turn it, screw it, good.
It was super easy to mount. 2 screws, leveler in there.
Yeah,
so that's
awesome.
kind of, I've seen those things in when you're mounting your TV, right? So nobody wants a TV that's like this, right? But very few things like that actually make it over the aquarium industry because we're just not as big as Samsung. And so it's kind of cool when you see that kind of thing to come together. So that's what they look like now. Is I mounted them up here, and so there's 2 sets. I got 8 pumps there. And there aren't many things where I could get 8 pumps up there with so few cords. I'm only going to have 2 cords up there, and really, really, really compact. Now you can't see it yet, but that little clear on the right side underneath the first set of Versas, there is going to be a whole array of KZ stuff. There'll also be like some badging done, I think, in the near future.
Yeah, he did. He custom fitted those, so that clear bracket you see under the right set of Versas is just a bracket that holds very specifically for the size of bottles. So we shipped Kyle empty KZ bottles so he could make that thing, and it's a bunch of little ones and a bunch of like 500 mil ones. So
yeah. So I got another angle, I think, of this one. You can see here. So this is what it's starting to come together. And like I don't think we're even half done here. So this is going to get super, super tricked out as the weeks go on. I hope next week you'll see some serious progress on this one. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it turned out pretty good, barring the totally shattered dosing vessel. All right. So big thanks to Kyle and Adaptive Reef here. So I'm gonna get his little logo on the wall because he helped me out so much. Kyle's a really awesome guy, man, and he's helped me like really achieve my dream on this. And you're just watching it kind of evolve. And you're just like, this is gonna be a really, really neat fish room. And somebody asked me, well, are you going to be watching the back room or the fish tank?
Yeah.
And the answer is,
That's
I'm going to go fish tank first, right?
Yeah.
But if I can do the back where form matches function, I'll do that too.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, this is just like a heart and this is like a passion, man. But this is 15, 16 years of reefing coming together.
Once that whole thing is set up and operating, I could easily see sitting in that fish room, just sitting in there, enjoying the wall, enjoying the apex control, touching a couple things. Yeah.
And so I think Kyle is actually going to bring some of that stuff that you saw on the wall to fruition so that you could get it yourself if you wanted to. By the way,
got to start.
He's always sold these deluxe controller boards.
Yeah, I just used one of these to mount a whole bunch of apex stuff for an upcoming series, and this large board here is more than what I need for my own tank.
You know what they need on these pictures here is actually
Stuff
to
on
show
them.
you what the apex and all of the gear looks like mounted to this, because right now I have to use my imagination.
Jeff?
So marketing team, BRS, mount some stuff on this and show us, because it really doesn't sell the dream here of like how cool you can make so many different things.
Yeah.
And one of the cool parts is he's actually making some of that branded stuff, so it's all modular. So you can just you want to put a little Ecotech badge on your thing, you can pop it in. You want to go Neptune, you put Neptune in there. You want to go tunes, you change out your pumps. You go gyros, you swap it in,
it lights up.
swap it out. Yeah, so I think that'll be really cool. All right, so that is about the progress that we've made in the last week on this tank. And
a lot of it coming yesterday.
Yeah, and fish, I think will be here by maybe next week, so you'll actually get to see some fish, especially if you follow Facebook. You'll watch us put them in and whatnot. So this is one of the big questions.
Okay.
So far, I've been trying to think about all the stuff I want to do in the tank, and you watch the lighting conversation evolve. We challenge some stuff, and the process of it is you make a commitment, and then you talk about it with other people, and then it just kind of it evolves, man. And you're like, I want to learn. So this was the thing, and I'm probably still going to do this, but I still want to have a longer conversation about, because I'm not 100% sure. So internally, I just like to emulate success. If I've been doing this for 15, 16 years, take the things that have worked the best for me, and then I'm going to bring it home to a tank that I hope to have up for another 10 years, right?
Yeah.
And two-part has been that for me.
5-gallon buckets.
Kalkwasser works super great, but I think my tank's going to go past that. Two-part works really great, especially if you do water changes. The calcium reactor, I really wanted to do this. I love gear. And you can obviously see that I love gear. And I really, really wanted to do it. It's just,
You had that sodium chloride conversation in your last, master series, and do you think you can't mitigate the changes to salinity enough where you'd be off-put by two-part?
So the salinity thing is a non-issue as long as we're doing the water changes like we discussed in there. So I'm just really not overly concerned about that. And I'm going to account for that also with the chemistry. But with the calcium reactor, there's no way around it. I'm dosing carbonic acid to the tank. I'm melting old coral skeleton and dosing the tank. It's going to have some negative downward pressure on the pH. And it depends on how much you have to add, what the CO2 level is in your house already, how big the tank is, how much gas exchange you have. Those things will all impact how big of a change it is.
Yeah.
But in the end, I really have changed my position on pH. So my position on pH for most of the last 15 years has been, if you're in between 7.8 and 8.3, like
You're good.
just leave it alone. You're
Yeah.
more likely to screw things up than you are to help anything. And like stop using pH buffer deluxe and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
When it took me 2 months to write that video on hydrogen, and it ultimately was about
Just
pH,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I didn't know. I didn't know when I went into it. I thought I was going to write about 10 of the top 10 elements, and then I got 10 pages into writing about H2O, which is like, wait, what happens if I have excess either one of these or not enough?
Right,
and like
right.
it just exploded into this pH conversation. And this is what I got out of it. The current thought process in the hobby is that like if you have 7.8 or 7.9, 8.0 or whatever, if I raise it, I will get some benefit.
Right.
Right?
Some benefit.
Okay, you will. It's true.
We tested that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You can get up to like 50% more growth out of it, right? The problem is, I think that's the exact opposite way that we should think about it. Because the ocean is like 8.2, 8.3.
Steady.
And so we're not getting a benefit by adding it. What's happening is we're getting decreased results by running a suboptimal system that is trying to survive the fact that we are running a lower pH than we should be. Okay, and I gotta tell you, it's so weird because in the aquarium world, we're all like, who cares? A couple tenths of a point.
stuff's still alive.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's the standard. Like
It's
everything didn't
alive.
all kick the bucket at once.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, but if you look at any marine biologist or any research that's actually done on the acidification of the ocean, a tenth of a point of pH can change like the trajectory of the entire reef. Not a coral, the whole thing.
That's 8.3 to 8.2. And for us, that could be a swing in an hour.
Yeah, and so that means that your skeletal structure will actually grow slower. Not only that, it'll grow thinner, it'll be more porous, it can actually dissolve in the wrong instances. All kinds of crustaceans, their actual skeletal structure dissolves in 7.8, and so even 8.1, and so like all kinds of negative things. And then meanwhile, I hear people all the time like, well, stuff just dies in the tank, so be it. That's just the way that the thing is. It's not true.
There's
There's
you
reasons
wonder.
why this happens.
Yeah.
And the single one that they say in these studies is it makes the reef more susceptible to stressful events. So when it gets too hot, when pollution comes in or anything, the coral's unable to handle those stressful events. That's exactly what happens in our reef tanks.
All the time.
So
yeah.
I'm going to take this to I'm going to take a different approach. I want to fix the pH in my tank. I want to be the best reefer. I want to take care of the animals to the best of my ability. And to me, it means I may not be able to always be 8.3, but I'm going to strive for it. And because of that, I'm just not going to put the calcium reactor on there. Not that you can't achieve it, because you can mix it with other solutions, with a CO2 scrubber and kalkwasser and all kinds of other things.
But adding like a calcium reactor in is knowingly adding something in that's doing the opposite of what you wanted, or what you're trying to achieve.
All right, so we're going to do a master, for all you calcium reactor fans out there, we're going to do a master calcium reactor series out there. I'm going to tell you all the benefits and why I desperately actually really, really wanted to do it. And there's a lot of places where this is the right tool for the right job. In this case, I'm just not going to go that way.
Yeah.
All right, so that's what that looks like. Oh, yeah, everybody's seen one, a calcium reactor. And this is actually one of the things that came up too, and I was wishy-washy about it. So I'm going to go two-part. Which is really 2 to 4 part. And so Triton came up. I'm going to tell you, I don't think I'm going to do this, but this is the reason why this one came up. So in the sodium chloride one, what came up is the long-term chemistry issues of sodium chloride and how you account for it, and taking water out and in. Also, that this one specifically, designed for a refugium, so it adds in the molybdenum, the iron and stuff, and accounts for all that. And so it's attractive, but if you go back to it, there's like 2 reasons that I'm probably not going to do it. One is it's $200 for a kit of that stuff, so it's pretty expensive. And on a big tank, man, you're just going to open up your wallet and just like start shaking it on the floor. That doesn't mean it's not the best solution. It just like means it's super expensive, and so I'm looking for. I want to be able to produce material results. I want to be able. If I'm going to spend a lot more money, I want to be able to experience those results in some manner. And I'm going to tell you, I haven't seen a difference between that and just using general 2-part. And if you look,
supplementing with like some trace elements and whatnot.
Yeah, I wanted to take a photo or a video of the E17. I forgot. I'll give you a good fresh look. If you go to Facebook, I'll do it today, and you can go check it out. But this one is just 2-part mixed with Tropic Marines Part C, which solves. If you watch the sodium chloride episode, solves or largely solves the issue from the excess
imbalance.
Sodium chloride.
Yep.
Now, none of this stuff is perfect chemistry, but it accounts for it and makes it better, right? And it does it for like $3 a month.
Yeah.
And when you look at the E170, you're like, I'll spend $3, whatever that is.
Yeah.
There's no question. So for me, 2-part, BRS 2-part, just soda ash. Soda ash will raise the alkalinity here, or raise the, well, obviously alkalinity, but the pH as well. It may not get me all the way to 8.3, and so I might have to put in a different solution that I'm going to talk about in just a second. But it's going to get me, instead of taking it down, it's going to push it up. And then I'll measure it with Tropical Marines Part C, which makes it like the Balling method, kind of BRS hybrid Balling method. And so for those of you who don't know, I think they're going to put the kit together on the website.
With the R2-part and their Tropic Marine C.
Yeah, I want to do a video on how to do it too, because it like adds $3 to the cost of the whole thing, and then actually improves and solves some of the issues that you might have with just general 2-parts out there. There's only a couple that actually account for the sodium chloride elevation issue, so I don't know. You can go watch that video if you want. But yeah, so here's the other thing though. I'm gonna find out. I don't know what the pH is gonna be when I use that, and it will depend on how much you dose to some degree as well.
Which will be low in the beginning and increasingly higher.
It will depend on how well the algae reactor manages CO2 at night as well. So there's gonna be a lot of moving parts to this one.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I'm thinking about is combining kalkwasser with 2-part if need be.
Oh,
all right. Okay. And so I've actually done this like different in many cases. In my very first tank, I just put kalkwasser in my auto top off, and I burned up the pumps a little faster that way. Like I'd go through my Tunes pump like once a year, but at the cost of those things, it was totally worth it. Yeah. Because it was a super, super, super simple solution.
Yeah.
But it kind of varied with the season as to how dry my house was, or if a pump got bumped and like was no longer doing the same amount of turbulence on the surface, or all kinds of different reasons. So I actually found that there's no reason that you can't actually dose 2-part the same way that you dose kalkwasser like lime water, the same way you dose 2-part. And you can do it out of a big old vat, mix it up in your garbage can.
Cover it and
and just dose. And so if I evaporate 2 gallons a day, I can just tell the dosing pump to do 2 gallons, and we do it every day instead of doing like this weird changes of the season and all that kind of stuff, or being dependent on how much you evaporate. And if you want, you don't have room for that big old jug,
especially in your space.
Yeah, I don't have room for that in there. What you can use is one of those stirrers. So I can take fresh water, pump it through the stirrer, which will bring it to near maximum saturation, and I can dose a controlled amount of that to the tank as well. So I'm not really sure if that's going to be part of the whole thing. I'm going to monitor the pH a little bit, and you'll watch that whole conversation evolve. But I may very well add kalkwasser to the whole thing as part of getting it to 8.3. I may also choose, or instead choose to do the CO2 scrubber.
Yeah.
That one, I can peg it. I can make it like 8.3 all day, every day.
Yeah.
So
it's just a matter of media changes.
I'm not sure which way I'm going to go yet. Kalkwasser being a really great option. And again, I'm going to do like a little master kalkwasser
which we
episode.
tried that approach to dosing it on the original ULM SPS tank, where we had the stir, we had a dose, and we were just kind of pushing a set amount of water through it every day.
And one of the cool things, actually, because people like put pH probes in there to try to tell how much concentration. The pH probe really doesn't work that well.
Right.
What you can do is get an EC pen, so an electrical conductivity pen. It's like the same thing as a TDS meter.
Yep. Yep.
Except for it says EC on the front, which is it's just a conversion.
Yep.
And you can dip it right in there, and you'll be able to tell, is my reactor still producing max saturation or near whatever it's going to produce, and know when I need to change out the kalkwasser in the bottom. So
easy.
Yeah, I don't know. That was one of the things I learned from that whole thing. So in that case, I really like this. Ended up liking this Avast Marine. We're out of stock in this thing today, so I don't know. Maybe I have to
But yeah, it's got the pH port, like you said, on top. And the constant stir, you can just plug it into an Apex outlet.
Doesn't have any nuts on the top, like it was really easy to use, and it worked.
Simple,
End of story, it worked.
Yep.
And you can get parts for it near like a company that's based here in America, and like easy to get like parts for. So little motor is going to burn out every now and then, and I'll probably use a dose in this case to actually feed it. Just because of my experience with the dose, and I don't need 4 pump heads anymore, and it probably will be down wherever the reactor is. The dose has been the most reliable dosing pump that I've used, so I'm taking a little bit of a bet on the Versa. So you'll get to hear from me like how the Versa pans out for me. Ecotech's earned my trust over the years, so like I believe that these are going to be a good option for me. If there aren't, well, shame on them, and you guys will get to find out.
I think they'll be all right, though.
Yeah. All right, so I don't know. That's basically the calcium story. So I'm one other bit actually. One other bit here was that if you use the Triton 4-part system, I believe that theirs seems to have a way higher pH increase than any other 2-part that I've used.
Oh yeah, is
my
concentration, right?
Well, my guess is it's actually that they're using sodium hydroxide, at least partially. I don't know this to be the case, but sodium hydroxide is part of their alkalinity, and that is why you see the increase. And now there's DIY sodium hydroxide out there, except for that's lye. And if it's dry,
you've seen Fight Club.
you can burn it. Have you seen Fight Club? The little kiss of death there.
Yeah.
So you have to mix it, and it's a little scary to me, like especially if your kids have access to it. And for me, I got going on 3 kids here in about a month and a half, and I'm not super great about locking the doors and putting everything away, and I just don't want to worry about it. So I wouldn't use something like that personally. But there are those kinds of things out there. So if you use I don't know again what's in the Triton, but I do know that it does seem to have a more significant pH increase than most 2-parts. And that might be part of what makes it worth the value to you if that's in there. You'll note, actually, this is a good point. Part of what I'm going to do here is actually rip off what I believe came from Triton. If you look at this next slide here, you'll notice that I got 4 containers, or 3.5 actually.
Oh yeah.
But there's going to be 4.
There will be 4.
Okay, so one of the reasons I did that is because I want to be able to.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I want to be able to house as much up there as possible without having to maintenance. It's a really large tank, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things you can do is the calcium portion of most 2-parts can actually be way more potent. Yeah, double, triple, quadruple. I don't know the exact limit, but like you can make it a lot more potent than they normally are. Normally they're just like way less potent, so you can make it 1-to-1.
Yeah.
I think that Red Sea makes it different, and they make it as max potency as you can, but it makes it really confusing how much I'm going to dose each one.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
Yeah, and so here's the thing: is if I can double the potency of the calcium, I can't double the potency of the alkalinity.
No.
It won't work. It won't dissolve. But I can use 2.
You can.
Right? And so I'm going to use 2 of them for alkalinity, and that means that I can double the calcium and change it out half as often. Right? And that's important to me in a tank this size. So I'll have 2 of them for alkalinity, and I believe that's what Triton does. And they've never really openly 100% said it, but they've kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudged it.
They do say, they do have 2 jars of the same one. So.
They have 2 jars of alkalinity, like A and B,
Yep.
and they tell you that you can mix them together if you want. Just dose twice as much.
Yep.
So I don't know what comes out of that, but here's the thing. That is why I got 4 of them up there. So either like there'll be some great surprise that I used the Triton method. I don't think I will. Okay. I just can't justify the $200 for that kit. Continuously, especially when you look at the E170 and see what the hybrid BRS 2-part with Tropic Marin's doing, like that, and it's done it that fast. I'm
15
sold.
months in?
Why would I spend that other money? There's no good reason.
That's true. Yeah.
So I don't know. All right, so we got some questions here.
There's a few here.
Might as well answer them.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's hit that $5 one first.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jason. And any thoughts on adding a skimmer net cleaner like the Aqua Driver Helix to the RE skimmer, so the Royal Exclusive skimmer?
I have not considered that. I've never.
But you have a.
I don't think I've run one.
You kind of have a position on this one too, right? Is that you keep that neck clean, and it does the detritus doesn't stick as well, and kind of falls back in the body. And
To me, it's just like another thing to maintenance.
Even like as I'm cleaning it, doesn't that stuff have the tendency to just fall back into the body? Big clumps.
That's one of the things here is like, so if you get that, like you go take your skimmer cup off and you scoop out all this stuff.
It's a handful.
It's a lot.
I mean, I can physically throw this in the garbage, which means it's not in my tank.
It's probably way more than is dissolved in the liquid in the cup, actually. Right?
Probably.
If you dissolve that liquid in the cup or in some new water, it'd probably be darker than what's in the cup.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I wash it out, I'm exporting a lot of it. So some of my concern is when you're like constantly cleaning it and the bubbles are kind of washing it, is when you clean it, does it just go back in the tank instead of collecting in the neck? Now the thought process is if it's clean, it will actually not burst on the sides there. I don't know. I mean, this one doesn't hurt anything to try other than your wallet. So maybe I would try it. I don't know. I've been really happy. So here's the deal. I would try it if I'm having problems with nutrient export and I need to spend more money to get better performance out of my nutrient export system. But between the Bubble King skimmer, the fleece filter, and the Pax Bellum, I don't think nutrient export is going to be my issue. So probably not. I don't know. I'd love to get more experience with them because I honestly don't use these things, and it'd be cool if other people chimed in and if they did and what their results were.
Let's start at the top there. Queen City Reefs and more. He says, it says, is there a way to extend the cable extensions for the Ecotech MPs? I have an 8-foot tank and can't put them on the sides without being able to mount the controller on the same side. Okay,
so in this conversation, immediately I was thinking oh yeah, you can take those cords out. But with the gyre, they actually allow you to screw it together, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so for me, leaders of the pump industry, Ecotech,
make these extendable.
Get rid of the clip, man, and have you be able to screw together waterproof connections that would allow me to buy a extension cable.
Yeah.
That'd be a major advancement on that
product. I
product.
could put these things anyway.
Okay, especially for the people like the Queen City Reefs here, is that you got an 8-foot tank.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, how am I gonna do this? I would
a driver. I have to have one driver on one side and a driver on the other, and now my aesthetics is all off.
Yeah. So Ecotech, if you're listening, get a waterproof connector and allow people to disconnect them, and you don't have to just pull it apart. Actually,
that's true too.
And then I can actually get an extension cable and make it longer if I want to. That'd be awesome.
Solid option. Corey asks, are you not worried about growth of algae or something in the dosing containers if they're lighted?
Oh, okay. So that's a good point. Except for what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it up to have a magnetic read on my door. So all those lights will only come on when I open up the door. So I'll put it on a switched outlet of the Apex, and I'll probably connect them all to a virtual outlet, so I don't have to write the code 8 million times. But what I will do then is, when the magnetic read on the door opens up, kind of like a door, your alarm on your house, where they'll recognize it, and then all the room will come to life. And then when I close the door, it will close back down.
That's awesome.
So there'll probably be a little bit of light in there that could grow some algae, and periodically maybe I would need to clean it. There won't be a lot of nutrient in there though. We're using pharmaceutical grade chemicals. There's not nitrate or phosphate to feed anything in there.
Ultra pure water at the same time too. So
yeah, RODI water that's double RO.
Yeah.
Pro Series DI. It's a good question, but I don't think it's going to be an issue.
Yep. Richard asks, what toggle switches are you guys using? So the ones that you saw on the displays, those were made by Kyle. So they're just little push buttons. Some, I believe, are like momentary push buttons where you can like push it in and feel that tactical click, and it stays. So it's like you have to push it on, you have to push it off, and some of them are just, just push buttons. I might be getting the momentary thing wrong, but some of them are just push, and that's all it is, and it just activates the switch.
I was playing with them, and I think that they're all just a single push.
Just a single push?
Yeah, and then the switches are for the, I don't know how you, you could turn things on and off, essentially. And you can also get them to have like 3-way. So if you get really with start thinking about it, I can have on, auto, and off.
Yep.
In this case, if I had my lighting hooked up to it, I wouldn't be able to turn my lights on and off. I could only do one or the other. So probably one of them, the closed portion of it would be auto, like you would normally run it.
Yep.
And I could go turn off the lights, or I could have it set to turn off. But with the buttons, I could go and say, have friends over or whatever, the lights are off and I want to show off the tank. I go hit the button, which would be set off a feed mode or something that turns the lights on for 20 minutes.
20 minutes, and then you can walk away and forget what you're doing. No,
automatically turn it on.
Actually, I just revisited that same topic, working with some of this Apex stuff in my breakout box video from a long time ago. McMaster car, lots of great switches on there.
You know what? If you go to McMaster Car and you think about your Apex breakout box and switches, and then you see the plethora of all the types of switches you could use, you're like your brain just starts going off like fireworks. The amount of things you could do with your tank using these switches. So, that'll be the next thing.
Timothy asks, why not use the Versa for AWC as well? Continuous water change gives more stability.
Okay, so first off, I'm not going to use the Versa because I don't trust it yet. I trust it to run my 2-part. I'll have a pH alarm in there. I'm not as concerned about calcium. I trust Ecotech, but I don't trust this product enough yet to do auto water changes.
You just haven't had your hands on it long enough.
I'm going to find out, man. So the dose, man, I use those things here everywhere for auto water changes. The only thing I've learned about the dose is you should just preempt some of the maintenance. Don't wait for the heads to break. Once a year, just replace your heads because they're going to wear out. You don't need to wait for life support to break before you find out it's no longer giving the life support it needs.
That's true.
Right? You replace parts that wear out. Yeah. And so once a year, put it in your calendar, replace the heads on it, and you're just fine. So that one's earned my trust for auto water changes. Now the question is am I going to do continuous water changes, or will I do push button ones? And continuous makes more sense in many ways because it's just happening without you knowing it. Yeah. Right? But I was kind of thinking maybe I'll set up one of those buttons because there is just a water change button on the Apex.
I think the max is 31 gallons per day in a total 24-hour period. So if you were to push that button, it would take you would be able to do 31 gallons in a 24-hour period, which is hey, water change day, 10%. Click that.
So for me, I'd be a little less than 10%. Yeah. So one of the days, it's Sunday, I go look at it. Okay, so this is the reason that I'm kind of thinking about just doing push button water changes. Walk up and say, it's Sunday, do me a water change, boom, leave.
Yeah, why not?
Right? So here's the reason for that for me. Is I get most of the benefits of the auto water change by doing it once a week, and I can actually go push it virtually if I'm away as well.
True. Yep.
But it's that balance of not relying on technology too much, right? And so if, say, something happened to the Apex and it was just sucking out water and not pumping it back in or whatever, I don't know, maybe a mouse chewed through one of the tubes or any number of things, right? Well, if I leave it on automatically, something could go wrong for a pretty prolonged period of time.
Yep.
Now, granted, the salinity probe will probably tell me, especially if it's catastrophically wrong. But I just kind of like the satisfaction of knowing that I'm going to push this button. It's going to do a 30% water change, and it won't do anything more than that.
Yeah.
So I don't know the answer to that question quite yet. But I'm definitely going to use the dose for my auto water changes, and I might just use push button one, and I might set it up for daily. I will tell you, all of the tanks here are automatic daily dosage. So like it's not that we don't trust that thing because it's on like every important tank, including the one behind me.
Yep.
Like
3%
but
a day.
at home, I just do my own thing differently at home. So I don't know. So there you go.
Dylan asks, are pH-controlled algae reactors a thing yet for pH stabilization and not nutrient export?
Well, it's hard to decouple that because no matter what happens, you're going to remove some amount of nutrient, right? But yeah, I think you could do two things. So you can turn the algae reactor on and off
when your pH is low,
or your refugium, on and off based on your pH, right?
Yep.
That means it could come under in the day, or could come on at night, it could do whatever. But with some of them, you can actually control the intensity as well, right? So with a little bit of advanced coding from the Apex, you could actually probably use, with some of these lights anyway, you could probably change it so that instead of just turning it all the way on and all the way off all the time, if I want to stop the pH increase, at night, I could actually, instead of running it at 100%, I could run it at 50, or all the way down to 10 and let it kind of, drive the rate of photosynthesis. The more light, the higher the rate of photosynthesis. The more photosynthesis, the more carbon dioxide it's soaking up. So I think you could do that, especially if you wanted to get really nerdy with it.
A couple more here. Let's see. William asks, why don't you just use calcium reactor and caulk? I've seen that done multiple times.
Okay, so this is one of the things. Like one of the reasons that I'm cautious to use kalkwasser with the two-part is in the past I don't like mixing two methods because it just means there's more things to go wrong.
Yeah,
right.
Like your calc could all dump in.
Okay, I've decided now for myself that I'm going to fix pH because I think it's important. I think it's a reason for slow growth. I think it's a reason for increased mortalities, and I think it's worth fixing. I want to fix it in the most stable and easiest manner. And so is calc more stable than, say, a CO2 scrubber? And I haven't made my final determination on that, but I'm kind of leaning towards that it is. The reason I didn't feel that way before is because it was based largely on dumping in your ATO. And
which is kind of Wild West to some degree.
And now I got two things, and one of them's got this wacky moving part to it, and I don't like it. Now, if you combine the CO or the kalkwasser with the calcium reactor, maybe, right? I mean, like I know that people combat the CO2 addition or the carbonic acid addition from the calcium reactor with the kalkwasser, but now I got a lot of moving parts, and the calcium reactor is not difficult.
No.
It's just the most complex and has the most moving parts of all of them.
Yeah.
Once you get it set up, it's usually pretty stable and it'll stay right there. Peg the pH in it, you can peg the concentration coming out of it. But
I don't know. So if you find that the kalkwasser and the Pax Bellum and you're running the calcium reactor and the kalkwasser and the Pax Bellum are going, but it's still not keeping up with the depletion or with the drop from the calcium reactor. Now you're talking about adding in another solution like the scrubber. So you've got like three things fighting one thing, it's just complex.
I'm gonna give you one more reason actually. This is like the thing that like a lot of people just choose not to talk about, but it's real. It's calcium reactor media adds a pretty significant amount of phosphates. Yeah. And so like I watched over at the Worldwide, they were using the
Phosphate E.
Yeah,
true.
And they were able to actually manage it, like peg it, because they know exactly how much to add to precipitate it out. And I was like, why do you have to use all that? Why don't you have problems with nitrate? Like, because you're taking out all of this phosphate, but nitrate's actually pretty stable in your tanks, and it's because a lot of them are, I believe, it's because a lot of them are running the calcium reactors, and the calcium reactor media was an animal at one point, right?
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of them anyway.
Deep down in its skeleton, it's holding on to a bunch of new things like that.
Some of them more recently, some of them like dinosaur era. But like they have phosphate bound up in the skeletal structure. And when you dissolve it, you add phosphate to the tank. Now most people, if you don't have a calcium reactor, you're adding phosphate and nitrate to the tank in a somewhat balanced manner because you're just adding organic matter via food. And the food breaks down. It doesn't mean it's like perfect ratio to the sea or anything, but like it usually doesn't get like totally out of hand where nitrate is like way off the hook and the phosphate isn't, or vice versa. Now, the one caveat to that is we've tested it here, and we definitely found that most of the natural medias actually add that.
Yep.
If you use an artificial calcium reactor media, it might not.
Yeah.
And so, I haven't tried the Destaco stuff. I think, doesn't the Triton sell? No, not Triton. It might be just Destaco. I don't know. But there's a couple of different medias out there that are synthetic, and I haven't tried those for phosphate.
Yeah, be interesting.
But I just don't want to put a piece of equipment on my system that I know full well is adding excess carbonic acid and excess phosphate and has a pretty significant price tag to it. Now, here's the other caveat to it, though, is there's a point where it definitely makes sense. Like, if all of a sudden, man, I'm just like burning, my tank's wall-to-wall SPS, and I'm burning through $200 worth of two-part every week, well, the calcium reactor, I'll solve the phosphate, I'll solve the carbonic acid thing, like no big deal, because I don't want to spend $200 a week on two-part. Right? Exactly. Gallons of the solution all over the place. Not only will it be a way more compact solution, but like I won't have all the expense. True. So that's that right tool, right job, and part of like those episodes we're going to have try to master Kalkwasser, master two-part, master calcium reactor, is figure out like when is the right tool, when the right job, and how do I tune it, and how do I make sure that I know that it's the right thing for me, and really dive into some of those things that people don't talk about, like the phosphate.
Yep.
Yeah.
One more here from Terrence.
Oh.
Terrence is here. Hey, Terrence. Calcium reactor supplemented with carbonate solution gets you the best of all worlds. Higher pH, safety when away in case of CO2 running out.
What is carbonate solution? I don't know what that means. Is that like the soda ash, or I don't know? Maybe you'll chime in. But definitely calcium reactor supplement with Kalkwasser is the most common. Yeah. Right. If you'd supplement it with the carbonate, I think you're going to have a calcium alkalinity balance. But maybe probably means calcium hydroxide. There's no other questions worth answering? I see one here. How do you peg it with a calcium, a CO2 scrubber?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So with a CO2 scrubber, and again, you want to probably go, if you're wondering how you manage pH, go watch the hydrogen, oxygen, pH episode. You'll get more information you ever wanted. But this is what you'll do.
You actually have a bunch of FAQ series that show you exactly how to set one of these up.
Yeah, actually, yeah. So here's what happens is you may think that most of gas exchanges happen on the surface of the water here, but if in your calcium or in your protein skimmer, you have so many of those little bubbles, like millions or billions of little bubbles in there, the surface area in there is totally immense, way more than anywhere else in the tank. And so if I scrub out all the CO2 of the water the air interacting, put a CO2 scrubber on my skimmer, it'll actually elevate the pH in most cases. If you have a really crappy skimmer, it may not, especially if the crappy skimmer is in like really tiny, small to your size of your tank. Yep. If you have just rolling surface of the water, it'll have less effect. There's a bunch of reasons, but a vast majority of cases, like 90 plus that I've seen, is if you put a CO2 scrubber on your skimmer, it will raise the pH, and then you can use little solenoids valves from McMaster Carr again. Yep. And if pH is over 3.0, turn it, open it up, get fresh air. If it's below 2.5, close it, pull CO2 or scrubbed air. And the one piece I'll get out of that is those solenoids have a max lifespan, so they'll actually most of the time tell you, like it will be 10,000 or 100,000. It might sound like a lot when it says 100,000, but pay attention to how often it's opening and closing. Because if it opens and closes
your window's
every 15 seconds, tight. It might wear out in actually 3 to 6 months. Yeah. So you might want to, when I say peg it, depending on how important it is to peg it, you might actually want to go 8.2 to 8.3. Yeah. Right? Or maybe just, go 8.25 to 8.35 or something. Figure out what you want. Give it a little window, and those solenoids will last you longer.
That's true.
But like time it and do some math. Figure out how long 10,000 units is. And then you can also, if it's 10,000 and the thing is going to last you 6 months, you can replace it in 6 months or in 18 months, whatever it is when you've done the math.
Yep. Let's see.
Oh, all right. Well, there's a few more here.
What Terrence was talking about is using a calcium reactor, having 2-part on the ready, and go on vacay. If something happens to your calcium reactor, shut it down, turn the 2-part on.
Oh, okay. You know what? I missed
like
what
that.
he was saying. The baked baking soda, which is the soda ash. So what he's doing here, actually, just because he only said the one, I thought it was unbalanced. But it's using the calcium reactor and the 2-part together. I forgot that he actually has run Triton and the calcium reactor together, and they supplement each other for a long time, make it a lot cheaper to run Triton, actually.
Yep.
So yeah, if you use them together, you can actually elevate the pH. It really depends, man. Like, if you have a giant house with a air exchanger in it, that solution would probably work. If you have a house that was built in the 80s, has no air exchanger in it, it's pretty tightly built. I don't know the exact year where they started to seal them up.
Yeah.
And then you got 5 kids and 4 pets. You know what? Probably ain't gonna work because all the CO2 that you guys are breathing back into the air. All right, so next week, hopefully Randy and I are going to finish the whole thing. We're going to get all the wires routed. You'll start to see it light up. All the stuff will be mounted on there. We'll build our little custom RODI system that I just told you about for the first time, maybe.
I think talking about all this pH and stuff, we might as well send you guys to exactly the video we're talking about, so you can get a better visual and see all the nice, McMaster car solenoids and how to scrub CO2 out of your tank, if that's what you want to do.
All right.
And you'll find that somewhere in here.
Right there. See you guys next week.